Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Parenting Playbook. I'm Mini Athletics Ben, joined as always by Kirk Boya, co-founder of Mini Athletics, and we are here to talk about all things parenting and sport, navigating the journey of grassroots sport, children's enjoyment in sport, and all the things that parents and coaches need to make sure sport's enjoyable for their kids. Kirk, how are you?
I'm good. You sounded very laid back then. It's like you're very chill today, Ben.
I am quite relaxed today. I've had a good weekend. We're recording this on a Tuesday, so I'm still living off a good weekend of doing lots of activities, taking the girls to a junior park run, which we haven't done for a while. Doing some good exercise myself. You've got your campaign about happy exercise. Sunday for me couldn't have been better. 17 miles long run, so 2 hours on my own, no music, just me and the sounds of my footsteps, and then meeting the girls and Rach at junior park run to do a bit of a cool down, and they absolutely loved it. We were joined by friends, we had coffee after, so feeling very relaxed after the weekend.
Well, my weekend was different, actually, to that. And this is what we're going to talk about today. Now, if you haven't heard me go off on a rant before, I know you have, Ben, then today is the day.
Okay, so if you, just a little bit of context, you messaged me. Well, I knew that you were going to be doing what you did this weekend because we saw each other last week doing some filming for Mini Athletics. And then you messaged me saying, we need to do a podcast recording because I need to talk to you about my experience at the weekend.
Yes.
And this is what we're doing. So if you are affected by the discussion and Kirk's rant in this podcast, there are some support services that will put in. 'Cause I've heard Kirk rant before. So
I want that bad.
no. So
All right.
let's go. Let's get into it.
So my kids are age 8 and 12. Okay. So let's start off by saying that they play a variety of sports. They both went through the mini athletics program from when they were age 2 right the way up to 8, and then they graduated from the mini athletics program, and and I was so proud of that because they had such a zest for physical activity. They love trying new things. They just really love all sport, all physical activity. Even Kalen he won't like me saying this, but he does a bit of dance at school. He says he hates it, but I think he probably does. So they're really kind of open to new things.
Well, summarised by Seamus's most recent birthday party, probably one of the best birthday parties I've been to. Hiring a 3G pitch, your friends and family, we had football or soccer, depending on where you're listening to it. We had American football, we had baseball, and it was just a really nice afternoon or morning, I forget, playing multiple different sports. So that's true story. I think it's great to see them.
It's a true story, yeah. And I've got very lovely friends like you and family, which helps to that situation. So as you know, we've done a lot of traveling to the States. We spent a lot of time in the States, and I wasn't particularly a big baseball fan before we decided to expand in the States, but I am now. And as my desk is full of baseball memorabilia, I've got this Cubs ball here. I've not just done this for the podcast. I've got even collect baseball cards. Woo! And my kids love baseball. We went to see they've got the Yankees shirt. They love wearing it. They've got the glove. They've got the baseball bat. We go to the park. We play, and it's super fun.
Let's not forget Coach Ball Game.
Oh, Coach Ball Game is big.
Learning the ball game salute as well. So we still do that. They're brought into that. So yeah, I can tell baseball's a big part of your, high on your sporting.
It is now, yeah. It didn't used to be, but it is now. So then I found out that I'm not going to mention the team because I think, is it fair or unfair? I'm not sure, but anyone knows where I live will know. But there's a baseball team not far from me, and I didn't know this. And they've got a junior team as well. Didn't know that either. So I said to the boys, "Do you fancy going over to this baseball team and giving it a try?" And they said, "Yeah." But they were so excited. I was excited for them as well because they'd been hounding me to, and they had a couple of lessons in the States as well, and that was super fun. So they played football in the morning on Saturday and then took them over to this baseball club in the afternoon. And that's when it all started to go wrong.
I didn't expect you to say, when you said to me that you wanted to do a podcast episode about your experience of baseball at the weekend, I didn't expect you to say it's all going to go wrong.
Right.
Interesting.
Did you think that it was going to be a super positive experience and that was going to be, because I told you about it, didn't I? Because the boys were excited about it and I think they might have told you on the phone, I don't know. But
You said
'cause
they were
it's often
excited.
I call you in the car and the boys are in the back and
Yeah,
they'll
you
talk to you.
literally were pulling up at baseball. You said, "Oh, I've got to go." And I said to the boys, "You looking forward to it? Yeah, enjoy your baseball." And off you went.
Yeah.
And that's the last I heard of it. So I'm interested.
So we got there. It was a big field, and it wasn't a baseball field or anything. There were baseball markings, but there was a big field, which is fair enough.
Was there a mound? Was there? I don't know a lot about baseball. Was there a mound?
I think there was a mound at some point. Yeah, I think there was. There were markings, right? So we got there, and we did. First of all, we got there and we bumped into the coach, and there were quite a lot of coaches. There were possibly about 7 or 8 coaches, and I was like, because there was lots of kids that had been there before. I mean, they'd all been there before. I think this was the first session they'd done outdoors. They'd been doing indoor sessions. So it's the first session they'd done outdoors. Lots of kids there wearing the the brand of the baseball team. And the coach said, "Yeah, okay, just wait over there." That was pretty much the direction we got. So we had to wait with everyone. Well, the boys had to wait with all of the rest of the kids that all knew each other. And I could see my boys being a little bit they went into the shell bit. It was a bit awkward because they weren't really being greeted in the way that you'd hope. You know that whole analogy that we use sometimes where when you walk into a local pub and you feel a bit kind of, ooh, it was.
Yeah. Well, the last episode we did, listen to it. If you are listening to this and you want to know what Kirk's talking about, did an episode about confidence and how it's really important that when, take mini athletics as a scenario, when the kids walk in, the coach, the amazing ear, gets down onto the kids' level and greets them and makes them feel special, because it's that moment that you're stepping into a strange environment. So the analogy of the pub, you're going into a pub and all the locals, turn their heads at the creaking door and stare at you. You don't want to feel like you're an outsider. So you felt like an
Definitely, I felt like an outsider. And just thinking back, the boys definitely did because they're usually very sociable and they will. Yeah, but it's okay. It's okay to feel that way. But I just felt that the coach made absolutely no effort in kind of welcoming us. It was just just stand over there. So that's the first thing, right? That's a small thing, but it was one thing that I felt that new sport, they want to grow the sport. The sport is tiny in this country. If you want to grow this sport in this country, you have got to make people feel welcome from the very beginning.
I mean, I'm assuming because you're saying it's tiny, it spiraled and went a little bit like a Mr. Bean movie and got a lot worse as it went through, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Yes, it did.
But it's actually quite a big thing, isn't it? That first impressions count, because your whole experience is set up based on that. If you've sucked all the confidence out of the kids right away, don't stand over there, expecting them to join in with the rest of the session, which by the sounds of it doesn't go very well. You say it's a tiny thing, it's massive.
Yeah, I think so because it's the way they make you feel, and sport is about how you're welcomed and how it makes you feel. So I definitely think it's a big thing. But some people listen to this may not think it is, and that's fine. So then there were a range of ages. It went from age 8 to where my little boy is, and then right the way up to maybe 15, 16. Okay. So you had your competent players, and I get that. You got more competent players, you had your lesser players and new players and all that kind of stuff. Then the warm up, and there were about 6 or 7 coaches. Okay. 6 or 7, I would say. and they asked one of the 14, 13, he was about 13, I reckon. He was about a 13-year-old kid that was a player, been there for a long time. And they were having banter with the players. You know, the coaches were having banter with the players that had already been there for a while, and just ignoring the newbies because oh, I know you, blah, blah, ha, ha, ha. Really funny. And then it was very much that kind of environment where you feel very left out.
Okay.
I was just watching,
Yeah.
but that was what I noticed.
Yeah.
So anyway, they got this 13-year-old to do the warm up. So he took the warm up. It was not a great warm up. It was not fun. And all of the 7 coaches sat there. I just stood there with their arms folded next to each other and watched it unfold.
So I need to look at, the coaches have asked this 13-year-old to do the warm up, and that's obviously a massive, massive error. What type of things did the 13-year-old do in the warm up? Because what's interesting is his warm up will be based upon what he probably saw at some point.
Yes.
Because them delivering. So what did he do in the warm up? Because
it was like a little jog, open the gate, close the gate. It was a pretty boring warm up. Now, if I take a warm up as a coach, and as all coaches should do, your warm up is your time to welcome everybody into the session. 1, to make them feel comfortable within the session. 2, the third thing is to make it really engaging, both for the brain and the body, and fun, right? Yeah, I used to be a strength and conditioning coach. Of course, I'm coming from this from quite a high standard. But even when I was working in professional football, I would make sure my warm-ups were done with a ball, because professional footballers come alive when they see the ball, right? And if I just do it without, now I get it that sometimes you do make sure they need to be very warmed up, but they will be. But let's make it fun. Let's make it welcoming. Let's get the coaches involved. This is the first time the coaches are going to actually have a lot to do with these kids. Let's do it properly, not just stand there with your arms folded like this and wait for. Because it was almost seen like a lesser thing that they didn't need to get involved with because they were coaches. It's a warm up. They don't want to be doing that.
Yeah. I think the thing that's forgotten a lot of the time is that when you're doing a warm up, you're not just warming up the body, you are warming up the brain.
Yeah.
You participate in the chosen activity. And I think it's that thing that you underestimate that. Like mini athletics, we make sure that, we've got the wake up, go, we're engaging, we're doing all the things, we're counting, we're making sure that we're following instructions and working on all those things. And I would say it's a bit like walking into a house in the winter. You walk into the house in the winter, your heating, when you put the heating on, is warming up your muscles and warming up your body, but you also need to switch the lights on, which is your brain. It's like you're not just going, all right, let's move, because you need to be mentally prepared for what you're doing and alive and alert. And that's it sounds, to coin a phrase, a bit of a
one of those.
One of those.
One of those. One of those. Me and Ben discussed this. One of those. That was a typical phrase that was very much used in the football world when I used to, because an S&C coach in football, and they'd go to me, well, I'd ask them a question, and I'd go, well, it's one of those. I did not know what this phrase meant. One of those.
One of them.
What do you mean one of those? What's those? That doesn't make any sense. It really annoyed me. So now Ben just says, yes, one of those all the time, just to annoy me.
Yeah, it is true. So moving on from the warm up.
Yeah.
What next?
Warm up done. Then the whole squad did some throwing and catching. They had a glove, and the boys, they were put together. My boys were put together, did throwing and catching. They got them all in a line and did throwing and catching. They did that for 20 minutes, throwing and catching into the glove, which is fine. I mean,
is it?
Well, no, not really. Like, I'm trying to be kind in a way because of what's coming. But about 20 minutes.
Like, if you ask me to throw and catch, I'm like, all right, I've done this for, I know, 60 to 90 seconds. I'm like, come on now, what's the advancement now?
Yeah.
Was there any
not to mention
like,
injury risk as well, to be fair.
Yeah. But was there any like, okay, right, now you're going to do throwing, you can only throw with your right arm, or now you can only catch with your left hand, or now you're going to throw, but if you drop it, you're on your knees, or anything to make it a bit more engaging?
No, very stern coaches looking on, saying, "Do not
Okay.
drop the ball. High five." That was it.
Interesting or
Yeah.
not? Okay.
Yeah. It was very stern way of coaching an 8 and a 12-year-old at that time.
So it sounds like you're about half an hour into your session. You've done a bit of a
Half an
warm up
hour.
and some throwing and catching.
Yeah. Do you want to know how long the session is? 3 hours. 3 hours. Anyway, next they were split so that when we were walking to it, my boys got really excited because they could see these little net things where they were smashing the ball into the net with a baseball bat,
Yeah.
which sounds cool, right? And then they also, so that was one station, and then they had another station which was like within the what do you call it, the baseball pitch, and practicing some throwing and catching and throwing it to the next person to see if they could, like, you know, how quickly they could get it to the next person to at the base to try and catch them out, type thing, right? Looked fun. Two stations they had, one batting, one kind of this. Or they had a third station as well, which is for the pitchers, where they'd throw the ball, and then the person, I don't know the name of the person. I'm going to call it like the person behind the baseball batter, catches it. You know, they had one of those. So it's three stations. So my boys were pretty excited when they came because they're like, "Whoa, we're going to actually like play baseball. We're going to do this. We're going to, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, good." Anyway, so we finished the catching. We then, I say we, I was just watching. They then got separated into four groups. You had the pitchers and that person behind the batter. Then you had the hitters, and then you had the team which was throwing into the bases and all that kind of stuff, right? Then you had another base. Then you had another station, and that was with, I mean, his name I might have to just fabricate. Let's call him Jeff. Okay. So with Jeff, we had, that's not his name, but I'm going to protect him. So there was a Jeff station. Jeff, again, quite a stern coach, took the 6 newbies. They're all aged between 8 and 12. Okay. There was about 6 of them.
Newbies defined by first session or first few sessions, or?
First few sessions, I think, but there were a lot. I think there was definitely one other that was new. I don't know about the other 3.
So we got Jeff's newbies.
Yeah, Jeff's newbies. That's where we were put. So Jeff's newbies were, well, basically what we did was, and I'm going to do one of our very famous demonstrations here. I know that some people listen on a podcast, so can we explain it?
Just while Kirk rearranges his furniture, if you want to watch any of the podcast episodes, we do put them out on YouTube. We put reels like this one on Instagram and socials. They're very entertaining. So head over to Mini Athletics on Instagram and YouTube and watch the videos. If you're enjoying the podcast, then remember to hit the notification bell for all the episodes that come out, and share the episode with friends and like-minded people, because it helps us get the podcast out there. Demonstration, Kirk. Let's see it.
So what they did with Jeff is he would get them all in a line, and he would roll the ball to them one at a time, and they would have to pick the ball up from the ground with their glove, put it in the other hand, and throw it back. And then it goes to the next person, and then they have to pick it up and throw it back. Okay.
So more throwing and catching.
More throwing and catching.
Well, no, more throwing.
He's picking it up from the ground. Okay. And they did that for 1.5 hours.
No.
Now people will think, no, Kurt, no, they didn't. They must have done something else. Nope. No, they didn't. They did it for 1.5 hours. Okay. But they were still doing it. So this reached 2 hours. Okay.
Yeah,
now,
so 2 hours in a session, you've had a warm-up. They've had throwing and catching and throwing.
They're picking the ball up from the floor and throwing it for 1.5 hours. Now, I 2 hours, at the 2 hour mark, we've been there for 2 hours, I decided to take them out of the session because I could see that every bit of enjoyment and from the game of baseball had gone. The guy, Jeff, there was no fun involved. There were no games. There was no imagination. It was just they rocked up and they decided, right, what we're going to do is we're going to get the ball into the glove. It was purely based on technique. Okay. And here lies my problem. If you cannot inspire a child to have fun in your sessions and you're just purely technique based and it's not fun and you do it for a period of time where the kids end up hating the sport, you should not be coaching. I don't care if you're a volunteer. Well done to all the volunteers out there that coach really well. But there are some volunteers and there are some paid coaches. I think he probably was paid, right? There are some paid coaches that just do not know how to coach kids. And this is my point, right? If you don't know, go and find out. If the kids in your session are not beaming from ear to ear pretty much throughout the session, you're doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong. So if you can't coach, if you can't inspire, if you can't make it fun, please stop. For example, we've got this big, I don't know, another job. Okay, so in the NHS, they probably want more nurses, right? I'm not going to go to my local hospital and say, I've heard you want nurses. I'm going to volunteer myself. Here I am. And just give it a crack.
Please don't. I've heard your bedside manner's terrible.
Why is coaching any different to that? Why are we allowed in this country to go, Joe,
Yeah.
I've heard they're lacking coaches down the local baseball club. I used to play a bit of baseball. I'm going to go and volunteer myself. And they'll go, oh, yeah, come on, get your DBS done first. Otherwise, you're good. No, you're not good because what you've done is you've destroyed my boys' love of baseball in 2 hours because they came out of that and said, Dad, I thought baseball was a bit different, to be honest. I said, yeah, it is a bit different. But unfortunately, you just had the wrong coach.
I mean, there's so much to unpack from that. But the one big thing that is sticking in my head, you've kind of touched on it, is kind of in a sport where it's not as popular in this country as it is in the States, clearly, in a sport where it's trying to grow in this country, what qualifies those 6 or 7, the Jeffs, to coach baseball in this country? Is it, do you think, a history of playing themselves, or is it a parent that enjoys watching baseball? As you say, it's not kind of right. There's obviously a sport that is needing coaches, and there isn't necessarily a clear coaching pathway. Well, probably there is, but for children to be involved in it, they need people to run these sessions. What qualifies Jeff, do you think? Or obviously he's not qualified, but what puts Jeff in that position? Do you think it purely is, I'm here, I've seen it on TV, this is what I'm going to do? Do you know what I'm saying? Because if we don't get it right in any sport, whether that be baseball, rugby, football, athletics, swimming, if we don't get it right, then we are losing children to sport at this very early stage. So it is very important to make sure the coaches are right. It's just baseball. I don't know. Have you looked into kind of what the not standards, but the requirement is to coach baseball in this country?
It's not exclusive to baseball. It's no, because there are coaching standards that are not met in a variety of different sports. We've talked about football, soccer. My kids once went to a golf session, and the coach was what they call pro golfer, which is like the
Every club has one.
terminology of a coach, right? Earned a lot of money. I paid him a lot of money for this session because it was a group session, and he got the kids to do something, and then he was showing his who was it? He was showing another parent that he was clearly quite good friends with a picture or as like a video of a dog doing something that he found quite funny as the kids were doing, their hitting. It's standards, right?
Yeah.
And coaching standards is such a minefield. you don't know where you don't know what you're going to get when you go to a new coaching session, because my kids have had some incredible coaches and still doing that. For example, Seamus has a football coach at Bolsham. His name is Jamie. He's a volunteer, did his little FA level 1 course, 2 course, whatever it is. And the kids love him. He's just has great standards,
Mm.
and his philosophy and his values of coaching are really built around fun. And
And his own passion, I'd imagine.
yeah, he is. With Jeff at baseball, well, American guy. I'm not saying not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying that in a good way. He's an American guy, clearly knew what he was talking about with baseball, with technique and stuff. But coaching the 8 to 12s is not his bag, because he is not inspiring them to play baseball. In fact, he's lost 2 of them for the game, probably for good.
So this brings you to a point, right? So there's Jeff and there's another 6 coaches at this session. They've obviously given the newbies to Jeff.
Yes.
Out of the other coaches, because you will have had time to observe, I guess, did you see
Yes.
any standard of better coaching from the other members there or not?
So there was the newbies, like, I don't even know if they're newbies really, but certainly the group that my kids were put in were with Jeff for the entirety of the session. The others got to rotate around the different tasks of baseball, and I could see my boys looking over. They were like, "Oh God, I wish I could hit the ball." They didn't even pick up a baseball bat for 1.5 hours, and it makes me a bit emotional thinking about it, right? But my youngest son was really upset by it, because he really wanted to experience playing baseball, and all he got to do was it sounds nuts. It sounds like I'm making this up. I'm not. He got to pick up a ball from the ground and throw it back to Jeff for 1.5 hours.
You could have done it at home with him in the garden because he didn't socialise with anyone else other than you and his brother.
No, well, they weren't allowed to talk either.
Would have been better doing it in the garden then.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is really upsetting because I think you've got children that develop a love of sport through watching it on TV and being exposed to it by parents that want their kids to try new sports. But then when it actually comes to trying that sport, the actual experience is so different. And it is really disappointing when you look at the fact that there could have been such a better experience. And I think, I know I wasn't there, it would be my opinion, and kind of relating it to my own coaching experience of a story, which I'll tell you in a second. It's kind of, I feel out of all of the coaches, you've kind of got to look at the skills of all the coaches, and maybe they've decided that Jeff is the person to teach this group because that's his skill set, but he's not confident enough in maybe teaching batting or other aspects of the game. Whatever the reasoning is behind it, it still comes down to the fact that 2 boys have gone to a sport and had a really bad introduction to it right from the get-go, but also haven't been given the opportunity to experience all of the elements of baseball to make that decision as to whether they want to continue in that sport.
Yeah. Absolutely. And this goes back to our podcast with Coach Ballgame and what he's trying to do with the sport of baseball. If Coach Ballgame would have saw that session, I kept thinking it as I was standing there, is what would he be thinking right now?
Mm.
And I would have loved to have stood there with James Lowe, Coach Ballgame, and just gone, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah.
Because the whole point is joy, right? Is joy. And I looked around, and even on the rotations, because they were being very technically, it
Mm.
was a very technical session. Even though in the notes, when you go on this spawn thing before you come, it's like, be prepared to give it your all on all this kind of stuff. There's 5 big points. At no point was there, come and have some fun. come have some fun playing some baseball, learn how to play the great baseball game in a really fun way. And then they would have hundreds and thousands of people wanting to play baseball if they did it in the right way. Instead, they've got a handful of kids, and I don't know. And this is why mini athletics was created, okay? Because that's the core of what we do. And when I go other places and I see it, it just breaks my heart.
It's that fostering of enjoyment first, and then skills and competence, I guess, if you
Yeah.
want to call it, comes later.
What was the story you was going to tell?
So I recently have, I'm a member of an athletics club, Hales Owen Athletics Club in Birmingham. And as a running coach, qualified running coach of England Athletics, I basically was invited to come into the track and coach the juniors. Now, for me, this is a great thing because like with mini athletics, I get to see age range walk into 8 years old. And then with the opportunity, a volunteer role with the club on a Monday and a Wednesday night, I get to go down to my local track and I'm basically coaching a group of kids from the age of 12 up to 15 years. And it's athletics. So it's an opportunity to get kids from this very early age to kind of experience all of the elements of athletics, whether that be endurance running,
Yeah.
whether that be sprints, whether that be jumps like long jump, triple jump, high jump, shot put, javelin with the throws. And the role has come about because the existing coach, who's been there for 13 years, very knowledgeable, has had this kind of volunteer role and he's decided his time is to step back a little bit. So they've looked at an opportunity and said, well, I've offered myself up and said, I'll do this session. Now, the first thing is to kind of look at my skills as a coach. I've never done competitively any of the jumps. I've never competitively done any of the throws.
Yeah.
Never actually picked up a javelin, apart from a foam javelin at mini athletics. And I'm going into these sessions on a Monday and a Wednesday with groups of up to potentially 20 kids on a track. And their expectation is that they will be able to find out what they enjoy in track and field. Okay. When I go to the sessions, I'm the lead coach or will be the lead coach when I've transitioned into taking this guy's place. But there's also assistant coaches who have got very good experience at the jumps and the throws. So the first point is looking at your baseball experience. And the reason I asked about what their skill set is, as the lead coach, you have to understand and be honest with yourself, like in business as well. What are your strengths?
Mm.
And what other people do you have at your disposal to say, like, you know, you're going to go and take the jump session for me.
Yeah.
You're going to go and take the throw session for me. And I'll do the bit that I'm comfortable at, which is the running session. That session as a whole caters for run, jump, and throw, which is what track and field is. The second thing I think is when adults particularly go into coaching with kids, they forget why the kids are potentially there. And that's asking the kids what it is they want to do. And I went to a session last night and there was we were doing, because of the winter, it's kind of coming to the end of the track part. We're going to move into jumps and throws, which is why it's a key part for me to be coming into this now. We were doing 3 sets of 300 meters and I could see that there was a slightly older group and a slightly younger group. So I spent some time with the lead coach that I'm taking over from with both groups. And the last set with the older group, I could see these lads were kind of a little bit despondent, I
Yeah.
guess.
Disengaged. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were like doing their last 3 sets of 300 meters, and during the rest intervals, which are only short, they're like 90 seconds. I was like, okay, lads, what's your names? Why are you here? What is it you want to do? And I took the opportunity in that split 90 seconds just to quickly say, what's your favorite discipline? And I got the answers of high jump. Moved along. I've got the answer of triple jump. I've got the answer of shot put. And I'm thinking to myself, these aren't my skill sets. But I know that with good planning and getting to know my assistant coaches, when it comes for the time for me to transition as being this full-time coach, I can basically look at what's at my disposal and say, right, my assistant coach, I've got a space where these kids and a coach can go off and do the javelin, or they can go off and do the triple jump and get that good engagement. My job as the lead coach is to plan it with this assistants that are on my disposal, but make sure that that session is enjoyable for everybody there.
Right. So there's the thing, isn't it? Is as a coach, we must think about what makes sessions fun, because
Exactly,
it's
yeah.
easy to go, just make your sessions fun. Well, that's that's really not easy to do, because you do actually have to look at um, what is fun for. I mean, you can kind of think, well, what is fun for certain age groups in that scenario there. For example, with my 12-year-old, I was having this conversation with him. In fact, I did a little video with it because, this whole happy exercise thing that I do on my Instagram, where I tried to ask people what makes them happy. Well, his response is, well, he loves the competitiveness. He loves competing. He loves playing against people. What he really finds joy in now is seeing himself improve in doing that. But it's the competing and all that kind of stuff, right? It's the improvement within the game. It's game-based coaching, essentially. That's what he likes. With my 8-year-old, that answer is very different. So it's trying to dissect what brings joy out of these kids in a way that what elicits joy in your session with the type of kids that you've got.
Yeah, and I think that's where it comes down to planning, isn't it? I think it's your experience of baseball without being there, so I've got to be very careful, is lazy coaching. Because I
Yeah.
reckon if you went to that session this weekend, the same 13-year-old would take the warm-up.
Yes.
Jeff would still be doing pick the ball up off the ground and throw it.
Yes.
And what's not happening is they're not understanding what the children in the group want and need to make it fun and engaging. And there's no pre-planning as to how do we make this session different and fun. And that's where you've got resources, amazing resources like this podcast, like Coach Ball Games Instagram, like other accounts that you can look at on socials that are coming up with these great ideas. And I think it's being scared in a way to kind of go, someone else knows better than me. I can implement that. I can strengthen myself as a coach by taking that idea and doing that research. And I think that's where you have to look at it's continually improving your own knowledge, looking at what other coaches you might have at your disposal. Like for me, with an assistant coach, with mini athletics franchisees, it's looking at the fact that you've got the lesson plans and we do the CPDs and we share ideas on how you can make the plans fun and engaging. If you are very much stuck in your way and you're not prepared to learn as a coach and develop, then you've got to go back to your advice. Give
Mm.
up.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you're gonna cause a lot of damage to a lot of kids that want to participate in sport.
Yeah.
And it can't happen because
And some people will say, yeah, but then, the kids won't get the opportunity if everybody gives up. Well, not everyone's going to give up, because I'm not saying that all volunteer coaches are not up, because I've had some cracking coaches. I'm not just talking about volunteers. I'm talking about paid coaches as well, right? I think he was paid. But my point is that you may as well give up if you are not going to inspire kids to want to play your sport, because, well, you've just lost 2 kids that don't want to play baseball anymore, don't want to go to a session anymore. Now, I'm going to close this by saying what I was proud of my boys about was that they tried something new, and that was something I was really proud of. And I challenge us both, Ben. I know we are going to see each other this week, and I've got a new sport for you that we are both going to try.
interesting.
Now, I want everybody else to try something new, a new sport, a new activity. Go dancing, whatever it is. Go and do something new and see what happens. Now, you might end up in a disaster like baseball, but that doesn't mean that every time it's going to end up in a disaster. So let's be positives. End it on a positive. Let's do something new, Ben, and let's report in our next podcast.
Any ideas what it's going to be, or should we discuss it off show?
Yeah, it's going to be tech volley.
Excuse me?
It's going to be tech volley, which is basically table tennis football.
Okay, interesting. So we will go and find how we can play tech volley. The listeners, if you accept Kirk's challenge, then go onto Instagram. If you want to record yourself or take a little photo of you trying a new sport, post it on your Instagram stories and tag us at Mini Athletics in those stories so that we know that you've tried your new sport. And we will put our post out when we get to do tech volley. And we hope you enjoy trying your new sport. But if you don't, at least you know you've given it a try. And if you do like it and you want to continue with it, I guess the theme of the episode is make sure that you carry on with coaches that can teach you and inspire you to continue to do that through enjoyment.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you very much. And we will see you all very, very soon.